Chris. Oh, tab 8, excuse me, which is tab 3.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So I want to start with some of our stats. This is our totals for our 9 months of our start date to now. I'm going to talk, one of the things we're looking at is we've got all these numbers, but what does it mean? So we're kind of looking at it and trying to figure out and how much time is spent doing what kind of services within the business triangle. So what we did is we took the numbers that we've had and we tracked how much time we spend doing what, and we broke it down into a percentage tile. And so our percentages for hospitality with visitors, we spend 34.5% dealing with hospitality within the business triangle as well as South Beverly. 29% of our time is spent in the parking structures, checking the stairwells and checking all the parking spaces and stalls in front of cars. And then 18.5% is spent with business hospitality. So that would be when a business is calling us for assistance, that's 18.5%. And service nuisance calls. And then 17% is homeless outreach. So out of the entire thing, we spend 17% conducting homeless outreach. And the reason is we spend a lot more with certain individuals than other individuals. As hospitality, it takes a little bit less time to give directions or help with gas or this or that or parking meters. Broke it down into averages as well. Hospitality assistants, we spend about 12,190 hospitality assists a month, 406 conducting outreach, 4,301 doing the night patrol, and 261 with panhandling. So when it comes to panhandling, I was actually surprised to see it continuously going down, but one of the things I did notice was, as a collective, it's still going down, so there is a downward trend. I was expecting it to kind of go up, spike due to the warm weather, but it's still going down, but what I did notice was panhandling is a little higher. What we are seeing in the triangle is there's a lot of new people coming into the area, some that are coming from other social services from other cities that we've made contact with who aren't receiving what they want and are coming here. So what we've been doing is explaining different services in other cities, and since they've been residing in those cities where they can probably get help a little more efficiently than coming here, we've taken a few of those sentiment or called out class started to assist them, went through the whole gamut of things, and then they kind of dropped out and petered out once it got down to following through. So and that's why the increase for the passive panhandling as well. So our calls, hotline calls, we have a total of 870 now, and we have that averaged out at about 96 calls per month is what we're receiving. Unfortunately, we didn't track hotline calls from all the businesses in August when we started, so that kind of changes how many calls we were getting. But I don't believe we had as many as we did in September as well as October, because we were still letting businesses know that there's a program out here and you have someone that you can call. And then the hotline calls address nuisance issues, aggressive panhandling, illegal vending, suspicious activity, tailgating in alleys, outreach, and welfare checks. And in addition to that, we're also looking for the suspicious activity in the parking structures, because some of the parking structures are being broken into. So we're hoping with the visible deterrence that they tend not to break into them. All the parking structures have been cleaned, so we're very proactive in making sure that the stairwells remain clean and the light fixtures aren't broken. There's a couple parking structures on the east end near Bedford where we're constantly finding some of the local homeless that are sleeping in those stairwells. Results. As a quick follow-up in the 9 months, what have we done? We've pretty much become more of a proactive presence in the Golden Triangle, Business Triangle, and South Beverly. We've now have eyes and ears inside the parking structures and work very closely with PD and CLASP and businesses regarding when it comes to homeless and mental health in county. And then we've reduced the aggressive panhandling, so we see a visible difference. The businesses are telling us, some of the patrons that are going to the businesses are seeing it It won't. I don't believe it'll ever be gone, but it has tremendously reduced. We've gotten some of the top guys into housing. One of our success stories would be a man who sat in front of Whole Foods for several years, who, when we came in, made contact. It wasn't much effort, but it did take about 6 months to get him housed, and he is now with family. And then social service needs. We're addressing social service needs, and how we're doing that is because we've been able to expand the Human Services Division. They're able to address and concentrate on the issues rather than being reactive and maybe not getting to everything. So because we're able to be out there and make our, make our 3,656 contacts with homeless, they're able to concentrate more on getting people into the services. And then the expansion of it. And then with Department of Mental Health also, it helps us really concentrate on some of the mentally ill that are out here that unfortunately don't fall into mandated treatment. But what we can do is keep obs on them, study them, and then have Department of Mental Health come out, study them all also, and as well as build a case where if they start to feel ill on the streets, where we can possibly get them into some mandated treatment, but at the same time where we can keep a watchful eyes and make sure that they don't get sick or die on the streets. A good example is Darlene, who was on the streets for several years, and she was declining mentally and physically, and she's now in, I believe, a skilled nursing home. Mm-hmm. So, and then the increased collaboration with PD and the court system. So we share information and intel, and not the confidential kind, but it's more of intel gathering where they understand what's going on in the street, and then vice versa, and the who's who and the how's how.
So I wanted to mention, we started on this last July, and we've come a long way. Previously, it was well known that in our community, people could come and sleep in the garages at night and come out and panhandle during the day. And that was really clear when we did our count in January 2015. Most of the people that we found were in our garages. Now, when we did the count again this year, there was one or no people in the garage.
One.
And then there were several. The only few that we counted were primarily along the bus route on Beverly Gardens Road. Now, homelessness is a regional issue. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Last year, the count showed a 17% increase in West LA, and this year it showed a 9% increase in West LA. Across the county wide, last year it was a 12% increase, and this year it's a 5.75% increase. So what that means there's 46,000 people homeless in LA, and there really isn't housing to house them. The mental health system, for those who want treatment, can't get it. And then the court system, they closed, 20 of the 63 courts in the county. So both of those systems are really inefficient at best. And we could go on and on. But before the ambassador program came along, social services really struggled with how to help these folks because the system was so disjointed. And last year, as you know, the city committed $740,000 to a social service safety net, and that is for residents, and that's also for regional issues like homelessness and food issues. This year, I'm happy to say the Tuesday night, the council committed $812,000. So we have shelter beds for those who want it. We have vouchers for people who want it. And we have food, medical, mental health, just about any service that we really felt needed as far as the continuum of care is in place. So with that said, we were never able to connect the systems together, but now with the ambassador program, we've been able to refer 10 folks to our AOT program, and that's an assisted outpatient treatment, and it's really mandated outpatient treatment for those folks that need help but don't want it and will eventually die in our streets unless we get them help. Last week we had a very exciting week. We connected one of our individuals that has been homeless for 25 years in our town with mental health services. We connected another fella that has been sleeping at a local gazebo for, I guess he's 17 years, so he's connected to services, and you don't see him anymore because he's actually in a hotel now. That individual didn't want help until the court mandated it, and so now he's getting help. Let's see. You want to talk about $1 Million Vinny a little bit and how we've been able to help him?
One of the gentlemen that we've most recently become aware of was a frequent user of Beverly Hills Fire Department services, as well as services in Santa Monica last year. He's been averaging actually about 25 paramedic transports to the emergency department on a monthly basis. So in the course of the 5 months of this year, he's well over 150 visits to Cedars. So this is somebody that we've been able to coordinate care now that we are working closely with the fire department and police on this individual. And our city prosecutor has been able to assist in coordinating with the district attorney to really get at the root cause of his chronic issues. And the district attorney is now informed of what's going on in the field, and that helps with directing the case. Either, option is spend time in jail or commit to going to an outpatient substance abuse treatment program for 90 days in lieu of a stay at downtown Central Jail. So we're continuing to work with him. He has been cycling through, but we now know what he's up to and how we can best coordinate to support him for a longer term plan rather than 25 night stays at Cedars, which is not a dignified existence.
So just, if you estimate $5,000 per paramedic, police, jail, and hospital visit, times 150, that's like $750,000. And that's not to help them one bit, And this is an individual that has no money and fuels his substance abuse use by panhandling. And it's allowing him, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, for that particular individual, you're contributing to him killing himself. And I don't want to be any part of that. I don't want him or anyone else to die in our city because of what they're doing. So we now have figured out it's not easy to work closely with police and fire and Cedars, Adult Protective Services, the different hospitals. You could just hear how disjointed the system is. So, but at least he's not going to die in our city. So that's something. And I work closely connected with Santa Monica, so it won't be Santa Monica either.
Moving east.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, city police departments don't talk to each other. So you could have a horrendous history here and right next door start all over. So, all right. So I just want to go over what's in the packet a little bit and just talk about some of the things. A year in review, the Ambassador Program has positively impacted the Beverly Hills Business Triangle on South Beverly Drive since the program was established in July 1st. Ambassadors have addressed the needs of multiple city constituents, residents, merchants, restaurants, tourists, and homeless community members. I don't miss the morning phone calls from parking about all the problems in the parking lots. I don't miss the continual phone calls from the Dale Drive Association complaining about all the panhandlers and the folks who are really afraid of some of these panhandlers. In my experience, if you give them money, they're very nice. If they don't, they do things like assault you, which that has happened under our watch. Let's see. Ambassadors bring value to the city departments, including community services, police, public works, through their reports from the field. Work to secure city infrastructure, especially the parking lots. We were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars just cleaning the parking lots. Which if we're going to spend that kind of money, I'd much rather spend on housing for people. And coordinating with social services, working with our social service counterparts in the LA County has really been significant. Before, when we didn't have the ambassadors, we have to be able to find these people. And if we get someone accepted to the program, which is not easy to do, if they come out and can't find them, they close the case. And so now with the ambassadors, we're able to have a general idea where folks are, and that's helpful because the police honestly don't have time to do that. And with us our department right here, there's only so much we can do. We've seen a marked decrease in the aggressive panhandling, improved safety and hospitality. We had quite a few individuals, residents who stopped walking and were afraid to walk around at night and in the morning because of all the activity in our city, and that's now gone. Let's see. We have a couple of speakers that would like to talk a little bit about this, and then we'll go to the commission for discussion and a motion. Have we talked? Let's see. Let me talk about budget. I'm sorry. So this year has been a very long and arduous budget process, and each department has gone and talked to council, and we did it over several different meetings. And our budget process, for our division, we submitted many things, but probably the largest one was the budget enhancement for the pilot ambassador program, because that program was set to end this year unless we felt that it was useful and helpful to continue it. So I presented and talked to council about it. They had many questions, all of which were positive in wanting to do more. And so we settled on a budget of, let's see, $550,000 for 21-hour-a-day coverage, 7 days a week, and with an additional budget of $25,000 for special projects. And with that said, you know, we had to carve out how much the ambassador program was for business, how much for city, how much were for tourists. And so approximately, and I apologize for this, Chris, he went through all the numbers and figured out about 53% was for our tourism and business. And so we were able to get that funding out of the budget, which was from the TOT fund for the business. And so that really helped the process. So with that said, the official budget won't be voted until I think it's the first meeting in June, so that's coming up. And that would be for the ambassador and all programs clear across the city. Let's see. So I think you want to invite our speakers up.
So I don't know, should Chris kind of, I guess you could take your seat, Chris.
Yeah, why don't you grab a seat and come back
Kind
if
of
there's
listen,
questions.
stay and listen. And so, thank you so much for all
All
the
the good work.
information. David Lyle, welcome, and Maria, come on up.
You want to come up at the same time
And-
and talk
yes.
sequentially? So I'm David Lyle, and I'm a resident, and I even pay my taxes. So that puts me in an extreme minority, I would think. Look, we are meeting next week, I think, to talk about the program at large, if you like. But to some extent, we're here specifically to talk about an issue that came up and occupied you for about 12 minutes last month, which was Earth Cafe and George Seville. But before I get on to that, I can't help but say that while you all see the ambassador program as just a delight, we have a somewhat different point of view. I would suggest that we're less sure how rosy it all is, because what I believe is that the laws are laid down so that they set what you can and can't do in society, and within those laws, you should be free. What you've mounted is an extrajudicial squad of green shirts who go around, who's, despite the language used, and when we do talk, I'd love to define aggressive, passive, hospitality for stores, because there's a lot of stuff in those statistics that are just shoved where you can get the budget. And so I think you really need to be a bit more specific about some of those who's getting what from the thing. But what I see is the green shirts are there to clear the streets of undesirables. Now, where they go is, if you can tell a nice story, terrific. But the main thing is to get them out. And I find that a little bit kind of scary. And it also, because it's your definition of what is undesirable, which again, I think can be questioned. And then I would suggest your definition of what is passive and aggressive, because I've seen passive and aggressive from the green shirts. That, they may be taking old ladies to homes, in their spare time, but what I see on the street is not pleasant behaviour. So we come down to George, Seville and Earth, and that's what I've been looking at for 5 years, so certainly in the last year, since August that we've been going on. And you guys spent a lot of time last meeting because you're frustrated that there's this sort of one holdout, that while things have worked quite well elsewhere, there's this one holdout. And so while acknowledging that Shalom and the Earth management people are delightful people, you considered bringing corporate pressure to bear, a shame list, trying to get the neighbours to gang up to bring Earth around to your point of view rather than their point of view. And I point out that Earth isn't some sort of hippy-dippy sort of let's all hug trees together. It's a very successful business. It has lots of people who come in there and pay far too much money for coffee every day. And this guy knows how to run a business. So while he is...
Excuse me, David. David, I'm sorry. So we're going to give you 6 minutes because there's 2 of you. So usually it's 3 minutes.
Okay, all right. My simple solution is, therefore, just let it go. Congratulate yourself on the fact that you're clearing out the parking lots and everything else. But here is a business and a person, George Seville, who are doing nothing against the law. What they're doing is against what you would like them to be doing. So I would just say, let that one go. Celebrate, as you have, how West Hollywood's numbers of homeless have gone up while yours have gone down, and just give it away. Maria, I'll hand it over to you because you know George a lot more. If we've got time, I'll come back to correct 3 points that you made last time that are wrong, in fact. But you go about George. We know that he's not the world's most perfect person, but I've seen him there day after day. And
well, this is Maria Belknap. Commissioners, thank you.
Speak into the mic. Yeah, that way we can hear you.
Hi, Maria Belknap. Commissioners, thank you for this time. I just wanted to speak to the personal element of George Seville. And I would venture to say that George Seville, in my experience and having witnessed now for a year, is more of an ambassador to Beverly Hills than the Greencoats are. Magic Johnson, Larry King, they amongst myriad others, they come to George for his daily tidbits of information and discussion. He is a fixture on South Beverly. He is lovely. He is social. He's non-aggressive. He is homeless. He does not have a home. He takes the bus down to a shelter in downtown LA. He is smart, though, and he is engaging, and people provide him food, and Earth adores him. He is a part of the South Beverly community. We all adore George.
And now he's up on a charge.
He's now up on a charge. We have witnessed the Greencoats, which have aggressively, and I have to say, Beverly Hills isn't big. It's 3 square miles, for God's sake. I have pictures and have witnessed clusters of Greencoats on the backs, in the 100 block of Crescent, standing there playing video games, chatting, 3 and 4 in number, 3 and 4 by Coffee Bean, standing around loitering. They aggressively pursued George. They within a 1-foot distance of him, so much so that I called the Beverly Hills PD one day because of the aggressive posturing and assault that they were mounting on George at Earth Cafe. There were a number of us customers that were there that witnessed this. We called Beverly Hills PD. They came. There was, I don't know what proceeded after that, but the point is he's an individual that's been targeted because his way of life is different. I'm here to say that he is a fixture and a lovely addition. Princes and royalty from the Arab nations come from the Beverly Wilshire to have their pictures taken with them. He is a fixture and a lovely asset to Beverly Hills.
Well, thank you so much. You seem very compassionate, and we really appreciate that. And thank you for giving us that perspective as well. So I hope you set up a meeting to meet with Jim and to tell all your concerns. And hopefully we'll be able to assist with that and help with that.
I think we'll, obviously disagree about some aspects of the ambassador program and the green shirts and the fact that they've been sent out on clearing the streets mission. But I think we can at least see if in this case it lowers your frustration level. Just let one go free and celebrate the 99 that you flushed out to West Hollywood.
All right. Well, thank you, and we
thank
look
you
forward
so
to
much.
talking with you
Looking
next week.
forward. Thank you for. So I guess do we need? We're going to have a little discussion. So Sonia, do you want to say
Thank you
anything?
very much.
Thank you so much.
We should leave, I think. Is that the correct procedure?
You could stay or leave. You don't have to. You're free to stay, but if you want to leave, you may leave. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, Thursday. Terrific. 8:15.
Yeah, we'll invite Chris. I don't know who they were.
Hey, Chris.
Chris, why don't you come forward? You'll be part of the question and answer. So, I don't know, Jim, do you want to start to say anything, or should we go right to the
Well,
commissioners?
let's go to discussion.
Okay, Sonia, it's a discussion on, we're going to be making a motion, really, and the motion is just to clarify that, to continue the program. So, any questions about the program or that you have, that's what our direction is.
I don't think I have any questions about the program. The program was developed and put in place for the better good of the entire city. If we have an issue with one person, I think that has to be dealt with, but the program itself has done wonderful things. There may be an ambassador or two who need a little counseling in how to deal with an individual. I'm not sure. That's separate and apart from my feeling about the program continuing. And I certainly feel that the program should continue because they have done a yeoman job of cleaning out the parking structures and helping with the aggressive panhandling. I'm going to leave the issue of this gentleman out of where I'm going with the program in its totality.
Thank you. Commissioner Ori?
At our last meeting, we started discussing and formulating this upcoming presentation to council for this ask, assuming the commission approves of the motion today. And we posited questions to you, and I wanted to see if what you've come back to us with on, number one, what do you see today regarding this program in terms of what do you need? In the hypothetical world where you can ask us for anything, what boundaries, what geographical boundaries should we be expanded to, if at all, and how many more individuals do you think need to be hired, if at all, to address an increased boundary?
In a perfect world, more is always better. Wish list wise, Jim and I talked about this too. Wish list wise, what we're looking at was obviously a bigger office with more the more employees we increase. So one of the things I know Scott and I toyed back and forth with, and what some of the community was asking us, was Robertson is where there's another avenue of panhandlers and then homeless seeking refuge. Just in the triangle alone, we would want more. So what would really help us in a perfect world where money was not an option, we're looking at, would love to run 6 in the morning, 6 in the evening, and probably 10 during the daytime in the triangle, and then maybe 4 to 5 on Robertson. And then parks is something I would like to possibly get into, but that's all already being addressed. We're more of a added asset to the parks, and then eyes and ears for the parks. But that's really what we wouldn't need. And then in addition to that, if we do have Robertson, that's kind of a distance away, so we would almost need a centrally located office or a vehicle to be able to transport people back and forth.
Do you hear from the actual ambassadors on the streets, I wish we would have had one more guy, or I wish I could have gotten to this call sooner, but I was dealing with this?
Most definitely. As we are now, especially with South Beverly included, we run really thin, and they're working diligently, and I have to give them hats off because they're working at 110%. And when summer comes around, I'm probably going to lose some employees because it's tough to be out there and to provide a certain level of expectation And to meet that, it's tough to be on your feet every single day, and then to deal with some pleasant stuff. But a lot of it is just what they deal with out there is they deal with the hospitality. But the challenge for me too is when you hire someone that's hospitality, they tend to have thin skin because they are people pleasers. They want to help people. So then you throw in the mix of outreach. Outreach, generally, you're going to be talking to someone that's intoxicated or mentally ill, and they're going to be verbally abusive. And it's hard to rationalize. How do you talk to someone, especially when you don't have years of experience with the mentally ill, and then still be hospitable? So they have to deal with a lot of that verbal abuse. So during the summer, with the heat added to it, I tend to lose some of the people. They love being here, but that's where the challenge comes in. And so there are times that people, I know some of the comments I'll get is, oh, he's there today, I wonder what he's going to be like as they're walking down the street. And it'd be nice to have more where we can alternate people where they're not seeing the same faces. Because in my experience, some people tend to not like a person for whatever reason, complexion or their hair or a religious belief, but they may like someone. And with the days that change, they may like me today, but hate me tomorrow. And the more you have, a little more efficient you can be and a little more diligent as well. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this commission obviously recognizes the monumental task of wearing many hats as an ambassador. I'm glad they're doing the job and I'm not, because it's, you are literally switching from the nice guy to the, more serious guy, back to the nice guy, back, so, I mean, it's, hats off to whoever you hire that, you believe can accomplish that, first of all. My only question is, and you just raised the point that you're going to be losing guys. So right now, do you have a hiring process in place to replace them?
Yeah, I've got about 15 people that are showing interest right now. That I've got a couple interviews coming in. I've got a full team, but I'm also looking at always keeping options open when someone does want to leave. Some people like to switch their schedules. Right now, we've got a full team with the bus stop as well. No one's wanting to leave yet, but with summer coming around, I tend to be a little proactive. Not to mention if someone wants to take a vacation or days off during the summer, or if they want to take 3 or 4 days off just to relax, then I've got someone to fill that. And I like to be proactive rather than reactive, because right now I can't afford to lose someone because it makes everybody else have to work that much harder. And we still have a business to run here, and reputation is everything to me. So I want to make sure that we meet the needs and we deliver every promise we've made.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Jerry Feldman? I skipped to you.
Okay, thank you. Chris, I would like to put some more, I guess, meat to the bones to Ori's question, because it really didn't answer what I want to know. He asked, what was your wish list, we'll call it. You gave generic numbers, but we're talking about a resolution here where we might make recommendations for additional services, and we have no numbers. You didn't say if we have, I want 10 people and it's going to cost an additional $50,000. You didn't give me anything to support your recommendation or your suggestion.
So, Chris and I have talked a lot about this. In I think when we started the program, we didn't realize the importance of South Beverly. And so from the get-go, we were stretched thin because we took the coverage from the Triangle and other areas we cited and stretched it out to South Beverly. The new budget for next year covers South Beverly and the Triangle sufficiently. And then there's some unknowns, and I was concerned that if we asked for everything, then nothing's going to happen. So I wanted to make sure that the bases were covered, and then we have extra funds. It sounds like, I don't know if anyone saw all the questions of council, but it sounds like they support extra funding. But it's not like Councilman Krasny said, what if we did all the residential alleys? And, that would be an immense program. But I'm not sure there's a need for all of the residential alleys. I think there's a need for when there's an individual. And we've been able to spot check and handle that situation even if it was out of the area.
Yeah, but Jim, that's, I'm not trying, I know the city council has its budget, and but they're looking to us for a recommendation or our thoughts. And so I know the money is not my decision, but it helps me in my thinking of a recommendation to know, for example, that Chris thinks it'd be better to have 4 additional people and it would cost $50,000 more than's permitted in the budget. I would leave that decision obviously up to City Council, but I may or may not make the recommendation that I think we should try if the City Council can find a way of increasing the budget amount. I think that if he told me it was $10 million, I would not make that suggestion. So that's why I'm trying to get maybe that's outside our parameters. I also do not want to find out, we've done 21 hours. Are you satisfied that we do not need those additional 3 hours?
That's a hard question. The reason is we do get calls and complaints regarding homeless camping in some of the stairwells prior to in the mornings. We're also coming across, for example, the Bedford Garage. Every morning without fail, there's one guy in there. And he's a local, and he's been a local, and he was in jail for a while, got out of jail, and then came back. PD has come out and assisted us on several occasions. So is one person worth paying for the $3? It's really it's a hard question. You ask me, I say yes right away, but could I justify it by numbers? And I don't like to just say yes. I really want it to have the meat and potatoes and be able to quantify and justify saying yes. Do we get the complaints? Absolutely. How many? I don't think we have enough to go 24 hours.
Okay, then. Thank you.
I have a question, just in terms of framing of what we're trying to accomplish today. What's staff's recommendation for the motion? Is it just generally to continue the program, or are we really? Is this motion to ask for specifics on the wish list?
It's really just a general support, and then in addition that if there's an additional need and we can substantiate it, that there could possibly be more money. And I think that's reasonable and supportive. I think we would get council support on that.
So
Okay.
if our actual motion is just, obviously we support it, we want to continue it, we want to, I guess the generic term would be enhance it without
That's right.
getting to specific.
Right.
That's my understanding, just from listening to this conversation, that's what we're just trying to accomplish today.
Right,
Yes.
and the specifics are hard because every time finances talks about the budget, there's, okay, the TOT's up, the tax is down, the economy's looking bad, the economy's looking better. And so what we're trying to do is a middle-of-the-road acceptance. And I think the success was that everyone has really appreciated this program. And you guys have done a great job monitoring. Well, there's a couple that didn't, but you guys have done a great job of making sure this program is successful, and we have that body of the program again next year, I think. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware in general support. I think, as Chris said, it's hard to argue for the 24-hour coverage and the cost of that, but I think those are all options that we need to look at. And as things are being renovated, as things are being renovated, population shifts. There's a lot of things happening out there in the community that we have no control. But what we do have is an access to help those who want help now with the ambassador program. We didn't have that before.
Jerry, do you have anything else then?
No, I think it would probably simplify my questions if we had a motion that I know what we're voting on.
We
or
do have a
discuss-
motion, so we'll
Well,
do
no,
that in
I
a
don't
minute.
hear the wording of it.
We're not
so-
doing it yet because we haven't finished the discussion, and Sonia
I
will go.
understand that. That's why my questions are a little
Okay.
off-center
Thank you.
because I can't. But I think that in general, I'll just make the comment. I think that whatever motion we are going to have, we should support, if possible, as much additional funding available for an as-needed ad hoc, they have 25,000 a budget. I think that is probably not a sufficient number as a budgetary number.
Great, thank you. Annette? Sorry, Sonia. I got you already, but you were wanting
Well,
again.
my fellow commissioners have covered a lot of what I wanted to say. So I guess in addition to that, I guess want to remind your commission, this is our first year, so there will be kinks that can be ironed out. But as a whole, the program has showed that continuing this program will further enhance the resident, merchant, and tourist experience in Beverly Hills. I support its continuance. The enhancement specifics, like Jim mentioned, is difficult to discuss as there are a lot of moving parts and variables that need to be considered. And with regards to individual or specific homeless individuals and panhandlers, we also have to keep in mind that there is a lot of information that is confidential and delicate that can't be shared publicly. And so that needs to be considered also. The situation at Earth Cafe, it may be an isolated situation, and the commission should probably defer to Human Services, like Sonia mentioned, to deal with this independently. But as a whole, I think the program is wonderful, and I support its continuance.
Okay. Sonia, you wanted to add something?
Because people are talking about enhancement, I just wanted to add the word, and I think that Jerry did actually, as needed. That we look at this, we continue to look at it. We have some money in the budget for enhancement, and if we find as the year goes on, we don't know these moving parts, that we need further enhancement, that we be able to come back and talk about it, perhaps approach council with it. So it was as needed. Right now, you apparently are comfortable with what has been proposed and in the budget as tentatively approved by the council.
Yep, it's, honestly, from a staff perspective, it's always a little frightening to go to council asking for money, and so you don't want to over-ask, you don't want to under-ask. And I think we have the stats, we have the homeless count, we have the business feedback, we have, so many people that are getting help that they never got, that we can really substantiate the cost here. I mean, just the one person, this $1 million Vinny, he costs more than the entire program in just 4 months of the year. So, so I think it's money well spent instead of just dumping money down the drain. We're actually helping folks, keeping the community safe, helping businesses. And the last thing you want a tourist to do is to come here and, be followed and harassed by a panhandler or someone who's intoxicated. So, honestly, I don't think anybody wants that. So, I don't, Sonia, I'm sorry, we're getting all the names.
You're looking so
Karen?
good in your haircut, and your non-haircut.
Do you want to go ahead
I'll go
with
ahead
the
and make a
motion and
motion.
then
Before you
add?
make the
Then
motion, before you make the motion, just one more question, and this is back to your wish list ask. Those 3 hours that we don't have, do you keep a record of how many phone calls of someone calling and saying, hey, this is going on that you can't address because you don't have someone during those 3 hours?
No.
Because in a perfect world, we would have 24-hour coverage.
Most of the calls we get are after, so it's going to be reactionary. So when we do get something, it's more of a, hey, by the way, at 4 o'clock. So, for example, some of the parking structures have a elevator serviceman who the ambassador will run into at 6 in the morning, and he will let him know, hey, I just want to let you know that there was a homeless man sleeping in the lobby.
And,
So
you're implying during those 3 hours,
Correct.
the ambassadors couldn't do anything about it.
Correct, because he comes out at like 4, 4:30, something like that, to service the elevators, and then they'll see him in the morning, and he's the one who let them know. Or parking staff will let us know, hey, this morning one of our attendants found a homeless person sleeping in the stairwell or the structure, and that's during the time that there's no ambassadors.
Should we start keeping that stat then?
Well, what I was going to suggest, and it is that as issues like that come up, we could utilize staff permitting, and we could change some hours. I mean, we could cover that time to see if it made a difference. Like if we know that at this elevator it keeps happening, we could try to staff that 24 hours if we, could do that. Because I know we do, one of the unique things, if we don't spend an hour, we get it banked. And so we can use that. So we're going to have some extra hours banked from this
good
year.
to know.
Not a lot, but some, and a budget of full coverage plus more hours for special projects. So I think that's a good idea. If it makes sense to track it, I mean, you could tell me. But those issues are going to come up, and with the full staff, we can experiment with problem areas, and that's kind of what we've been doing all the way along.
Okay. Jerry, did you have one more comment, or are you okay?
My only comment is I think you should keep a record of, it might be a post or after the fact. You just note that on this day, your person at 6 a.m. there was reported a person, and or how many people were reported in the parking structure. So we at least have some justification to allocate those hours.
Okay. So I'm going to be making the motion. I move that the Human Relations Commission support and the continuation of the Beverly Hills Ambassador Program to further enhance the resident, merchant, and tourist experience in Beverly Hills, and to enhance the program as needed.
Second.
Can we have a roll call?
Of course, so the motion was...
Wait.
You want discussion?
Yeah. Say it again.
Okay, this was the recommendation from the staff, just so you know. And then we added, to add more if we need more. I move that the Human Relations Commission support the continuation of the Beverly Hills Ambassador Program to further enhance the resident, merchant, and tourist experience in Beverly Hills, and to enhance the program as needed.
Okay, as needed. That's the
That's our.
Yeah.
We're just.
Okay.
It could be anything. It could be money. It could be.
As needed next to
Just a
each
second.
other.
Okay. Do you want a discussion?
I'd like to
Okay,
discuss.
we're going to have a moment discussion, and then we're going to vote.
Okay, my only suggestion to that motion, where you have the continuation, I'd like to add after continuation and expansion of the ambassador program.
Enhances, I think, is covering it.
Okay, that's good discussion. Okay, let's have the vote.
So there's no other discussion?
No, I don't think anyone had anything else, did they? Okay,
Is there a second?
yes, Sonia.
Kind of takes care of that.
Okay,
Okay,
so we have the motion presented by Chair Popovich-Levin, and it was seconded by Commissioner Sala. So let's hear from the entire commission. Commissioner Sala?
Yes.
Commissioner Berman? Yes. Commissioner Blumenfeld?
Yes.
Vice Chair Friedman?
Yes.
And Chair Popovich-Levin.
yes, thank you. I also want to just speak a little bit to our last speakers, since we really didn't, touch on that. I'm hoping at this meeting, maybe, Chris, you can attend the meeting as well, or maybe first and then Chris, because there seems to be more information needed about the ambassadors' kind of job or demeanor, or how they are on, why are they on their phones? Because this has come up a couple of times through our commission meetings, that they see the ambassadors on the phones, but that is part of their job to be on the phone.
Correct.
That's their texting, they're getting information, they're doing contacts. So I don't know if we need, just maybe we can think about that for next meeting. Do we need a discussion on that? Do we need a notice about how they're in the community helping us, and how they're going to be looking and appearing? And maybe there will be a group of them because maybe they need help or they need assistance. Maybe there will be 2 or more together at one time. I just see this little thread that's very slight in the community of they're wondering, why they're there, why they're on the phone, why there's so many of them. Do you have something to add, Jerry?
Thank you. I'd like to expand that request. I'd like to at least have an explanation. I don't know. We have a limited number of ambassadors at any one period, and I think the public probably needs an explanation, and it can be of why there's 2, 3, and allegedly, 4 ambassadors at one location at a time. Where do we get all these people? Just so we understand, because I see 2 or 3 to get 2 at least together talking, and I'm just, wondering, do they travel in pairs? They travel individually? Are they there just because there's problems?
Okay.
So it's great. And Sonia, do you want something?
I'm a little perplexed.
Take a moment.
Yeah, no, we know that some of them work in pairs. And we know that they will come to help each other. I'm trying to figure out why I understand this individual situation, and we heard the complaint, and I think the complaint needs to be looked at. If there's more training that needs to be done or whatever maybe needs to be handled. We don't look to explain to the residents why there are 4 black and whites that have responded to a call. Why do we have to explain why 4 ambassadors responded to an incident, South Beverly, North Beverly, Rodeo, I don't care where it is. Why do you feel that we need to make that explanation for an incident? If this were ongoing all the time, it's 21 out of the 24 hours that there are 4 of them congregating, they're all on their phones, they're texting, whatever, then I think we need to look at the program. That doesn't seem to be what the situation is. So I'm concerned.
Okay, Jerry.
Maybe, I don't want to say I misspoke or whether you misinterpreted what I meant. I'm not talking about the individual incident that was presented to us. I'm just talking in general. Is there a gathering of 3 or 4 in general at various locations or for some reason? And the reason why I think we're not responding to the police department's budget. We are analyzing each year the ambassadors program. So we have to see whether our money and the city's money is being wisely spent and whether or not those people are whether the management is allocating correctly. Maybe that's micromanaging, but I would just, I'm not asking, well, this hour there was 4 people. I'm just talking in general, some explanation to us of how your teamwork works.
Okay, Jim.
So we can certainly do that. I'm going to make the recommendation that just Elizabeth and I speak with these individuals and then to hear what they have to say, because I'm sure we have information for them that they're not aware of. And then I think it's always good that we get feedback about, dealing with public feedback. Whenever we get a complaint or whatever, we'll respond right away and discuss why, there were 2 or 3 or none. And I think maybe next time you can go over briefly about why there is more than one. So, there's a number of different circumstances why that is. But if I may, we have some tenant-landlord issues to talk about, and I just wanted to take a moment on behalf of staff and the commission to thank you, Chris, and your team for all your work. It's, he has been available 24 hours a day ever since we started. So thank you for that hard work. And it sounds like a stretch, but your team has saved some lives out there. Folks would have been dead in our streets. So I want to thank you for that, and I thank you for the safety of the community and just making a difference. So.
I thank you, but
so much.
the thanks goes to the guys.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening.